Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Starting Out Bright. And if we have not met before, my name is Noreen Savage. And to just tell you very briefly about who I am, what I'm doing here, I am, first of all, no one at all official with Bright Line Eating, but the program has done a lot for me. And I found out about Bright Line Eating in 2019 in May when my friend Lori posted on Facebook. And she had accomplished losing 57 pounds in 1 year. She said, if you're interested, just private message me, and she would give me a scoop. So my fingers flew to message Lori as fast as they could get there. But then it was like, oh, I had to listen to the 4 bright lines. And if you're new, the 4 bright lines you don't cross are no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, and weighed and measured portions. And I thought, there is absolutely no way I could do that. Even though I had been battling food and being overweight for over 30 years, I just couldn't see myself doing that. But luckily, what was happening in my life was pain at that time. And I say that now because I hadn't really had pain for most of those 30 years being overweight, but I had come to a real problem with my feet being swollen, a lot of knee pain, my back. And this all worked on even my psyche as far as would I even wake up in the morning sometimes. So at 270 pounds and 5'2", I was feeling pretty scared. And so that fortunately gave me the willingness to try something so extreme as bright line eating. But what I found out, it wasn't extreme at all. It was eating a lot of great food. And the nice thing about Lori was she told me to do 2 things. Get the book, Bright Line Eating by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson, and to go into the community, which at that time was a private group, We Eat Bright with Lines. I don't even think the official was open yet. Since then, I've gotten into many private groups, and we have our Starting Out Bright private group, and you're welcome to join that. And so I was there as an observer for a while before I got started in July, a couple months later. And I just could not believe what I was seeing. People losing not just 10 or 20 pounds, but 50, 100 pounds, 150 pounds. I mean, this was beyond belief. And the community was so amazing. I felt like a friendship with so many people. And I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would post on my private Facebook page, and I would help anybody I could. Well, just before that year was up, God had other plans for me, and I'm a Christian. And he's like, Noreen, you can do more than that. And the idea was in my spirit to connect people who have been so successful with those who are so struggling. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing, hopefully for a little hope, little information, and a lot of fun. So I've met some great people, and tonight we're all going to meet and talk with Robin Rood. Robin, I'm so glad that you're here tonight. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
And thank you for letting us record this, because those who can't make it tonight can hopefully see it at a later time. But we had an opportunity to talk in the last few days, and which was great. And I love doing that because we can get to the heart of really what makes a successful person in this bright line eating journey. And one thing you shared with me was that you were a New Year's Day person. Like you began this journey on a New Year's Day, 2019, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2019, first day of the year, you're ready to go.
Right.
What happened before that day? Now, you can go as far back as you want, but I'm assuming something led up specifically to doing it on New Year's.
Well, if I could start back a little bit with my history, the first
Absolutely.
time I became aware that I had a weight problem, I was 13. And from then on, I battled with my weight through my late teens, early 20s, and into my 30s, had kids. And then in 2011, my dad died. And during that time, I knew I was overweight, but I didn't know how much I was because I wasn't weighing myself during that time. And on Facebook, there was a picture, and I remember looking at this picture and going, "Who is that?" It
Right.
was me. For the first time, I recognized that as an adult, I was overweight, that I had a problem.
And it wasn't
And
just an angle.
after that, I went on a 3-year journey, and I lost weight on my own, got a tummy tuck and a thigh lift. So I've had some plastic surgery, and I did it for myself because I thought it would be the solution to my weight problem if I had a goal to work toward. Well, ladies, and gentlemen, if there's any of them here, it didn't work. I gained the weight back. I started a new job that was very stressful as a teacher. And then I had a crisis in the fall of 2018 where I had to quit that job and take care of my mother full time. And I gained 20 pounds in a month and a half because I was comfort eating. I lost an identity. I lost who I felt like I was. And so I remember the day I met Susan Pierce Thompson on Facebook. She was doing the webinars leading up to the boot camp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was eating, I had a bag of M&F on my left and a bag of NMF on my right. And I was eating out of both of them as I was Facebooking that particular day. And it just really made sense to me. When I heard about the science, I was like, maybe this will work. Maybe this time it will work. I know I have a problem because I regained all the weight that I had lost. And I remember saying to my plastic surgeon at one point, and about how I was gaining the weight, and he goes, "Well, Robin, you have fat cells elsewhere." And it was just like, what? How could I get fat in my back? I never had back fat before, but I didn't have any fat cells left in my tummy area because of the tummy tuck. But so I went ahead and I signed up for the 14-day challenge. That's what I did on January 1st. And I remember about day 3, day 4 in, she made a comment that I wasn't all in because I was doing the 14-day challenge. And I remember thinking, that's not me. I felt offended. I really did. I felt offended when I heard that statement. And maybe I took it the way I did because I was still thinking that this wasn't going to work. And I said, well, I'll show you. I'll lose this weight, this 14-day challenge, and then I'll join boot camp. And so that's what I did. And so when I started, I was 179 pounds. And then I'm weighing in about 140 right now. I'm at the top of my range. But I just realized that I needed to look at it as a viable solution and that I needed to give it my all and I needed to commit. The surrender didn't come until much, much later. I got to say that that's been the hardest thing for me, is to come all the way in and sit down. Because I always think I can do it better. I can always tweak it a little better, do it this way a little better. But in the end, you just have to end up surrendering to what you know that works. And so that's
let me just ask you a question here.
Yeah.
So just so I have this right, you're sitting there with the food.
Mm-hmm.
You see this on Facebook, and I think it's the Food Freedom. There are 4 videos. I watched them too.
I think it is.
In fact, the link is in the slideshow. So if somebody rewatches this on the replay, the link is there. And so you're now skeptical, but you're optimistic, right? And you've tried other things for years, but you got as far as you even got the tummy tuck. This is at this point. Okay, so then you get in the 14-day challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, 14-day challenge, and then you get into the boot camp, right? Okay, but you fully weren't.
And I was committed. I was committed to the boot camp. I stayed bright.
Okay.
Pardon?
So I'm trying to think, like, you actually got into the 14-day challenge. You're into the boot camp, but you weren't 100% in it, or were you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you were
I was
making the
doing it.
moves. Okay, you were doing the
Right.
food, but
Yes.
mentally you weren't. Okay,
No, no,
all
no.
right,
And it wasn't until I felt like I got challenged personally by her that I said, no, I'll show you. So for me in the beginning, it was like a gauntlet was thrown down.
okay.
And can you really do this? Are you committed? Can you surrender? Can you make it an identity? Well, that was a growth pattern over the next 2 years. I didn't get that right away.
Right,
I didn't
and the
get that.
thing is that if you're like me, there were maybe a couple diets before this,
Oh, yeah, more than 20.
and so,
But I never thought I was fat.
okay, well, I didn't think I was either until I came into like, holy cow, what did I do to myself? That was
Right, right.
after a long stretch with the business that when it closed, it was like staring me in the face that, okay, yeah, I've got a problem. And that was actually some depression with having that in my face, like, wow, what did I do over the last 17 years to gain all this weight?
ZZ,
Okay,
I'm in a meeting.
life.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, then you have, what changed it then? Because obviously, as we talked, you have taken on this identity now. What changed
Mm-hmm.
from
Very much so.
not wanting to come in and sit all the way down?
It was, for me, the crisis of the pandemic really turned me around. The isolation really made me stop because I had nobody else to distract me from the identity that needed to form. I was with my family 24/7. And so I started looking more inward. And that's really where I really started embracing the identity. I mean, up to that point, even though I was following the program, I still was thinking, looking at other programs and taking pieces from them to try to make this program better. It wasn't enough. It was more, almost as if the geek in me was always looking for a different solution, though I already had the solution, and I just wasn't acknowledging it 100%.
Do you
Does
think
that
that
make
some
sense?
of it was just too hard too? Like, this is not like for the faint of
What I was
heart.
avoiding, what I was avoiding was not dealing with my emotions.
Okay.
That was the
So,
big, big piece that I just wasn't looking at my emotions. And so the whole parts work thing that I finally started embracing last year um, was hard for me because I didn't want to get to know myself that way, even though that was the next step in my particular journey with BLE, because BLE can only take you so far. And
right.
then you can have the structure, you can have the pieces in place, but the pieces won't stay in place until you become more self-led.
Well, I think too is that, and I really love that word self-led, because, and I've said this many times, it's not just about the food.
Mm-hmm.
It's why we're using food, but it's not just about the food. I ate all kinds of healthy food around here and some not, but why would I overdo it, so many times? And coming to grips with that has been really a big piece. So there are questions now already about parts, and I think we
Mm-hmm.
need like a little explanation. And I really don't have it because I've not gone through parts. But what could someone, or how do you get into it? Is it something that you have to go through the boot camp first to be into the, is it grit?
I I don't remember being discussed. It might be more updated with the newer boot camps,
Mm-hmm.
with the parts work. But when I went through the boot camp, I don't remember talking about the parts work. It was more in the community that I started to really start seeing the language being used and um, comments being made, people posting about it. I did look into an IFS therapist at one point, and I had 4 sessions with her, and
the
it
IFS
did
is,
not resonate with me.
okay.
Yeah, at that point in time, because I wasn't willing to deal with my emotions. I just wanted to eat the food, follow the plan, just eat the food and forget about everything. I just had to follow the plan. And so, but in following the plan, it gets to a point when you hit a crisis that you'll fall off the wagon because you don't have any foundation to, other than the plan. And I really felt that that was where particularly this year, I was beginning to be able to say, okay, now I got to go inward and deal with those emotions that I've been avoiding, because I wanted my program to be strong. I wanted it to be more self-led. I wanted to be able to say, if something ever happened to Susan, that I could still continue on my own. And I didn't have that faith at that point in time. That's why I started to work myself with parts, even though it's been around. And what it does is you have parts of yourself that sometimes leads the band, and your highest self sits in the back burner, the one that really wants to do the plan.
Let's
In the
give it,
BLE community, the 2 parts that
so some of our internet is a little bit unstable, I think, but just backing up a little
okay.
bit, the IFS is internal family system, and the parts is different parts of your emotions, psyche. I'm not sure, but I know that when we talked the other day, for example, you talked about the indulger.
Yeah.
So
So there's 2.
if you're in a situation where the indulger of you is wanting to lead the show, what would that look like, and how would you, how would you counteract what's happening?
So So you need to know the other part. You have the indulger, and then you have a controller of some sort. And so the controller wants you to stay on plan, wants you to take care of yourself, and is more on board with, they both protect you. So today I had a conversation with myself, and I was doing what I was calling choice time, and I was reading, and my indulger said, oh, wouldn't it be nice to do this? Wouldn't it be nice to go and get some NMF and just make it more special? And I could see and I had a conversation with it, and I said, well, no, not really, because I just want to read. I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. Lunch is in an hour. We'll be okay. And so that was my highest self talking. And then the controller came in. See, she knows what she's doing. That's the way it's starting to happen more and more as I acknowledge that I have this need to indulge myself. I have to acknowledge it. I have to feel it and try to see where else I can get that fed other than with food. So parts work is pretty tricky. So if
Well,
you,
it kind of freaked me out, the thought of all these different almost personalities, but it's not really quite the
it's
same thing.
not, it's just ourselves. It's the way we talk. We all have internal dialogue.
Right.
I mean, if you pay attention to yourself, you probably carry on 50 different conversations throughout the day.
I know I can scare myself, but I do recall one time, it was during COVID, and I was really stressed out. And it was at a time that I actually did get an accountability buddy, Tandalin, if she's here. She was my accountability buddy starting last March. But myself, I have had a hard time getting to Wonderland. I'll be right up to it, and then I'll start having a problem. And so what I started saying to myself when I'm getting this negative feedback from myself, I don't know what to name it, but I would say, we're just going to see how far we can take it with this. It's no worries. Basically saying to yourself, maybe it's the controller. I don't know, but it's just saying, I'm just going to trust in the plan, and there's no worries here. Let's just keep on going. Nobody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that kind of like it?
Yeah, it's definitely like that. Sounds like what you were doing. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
another piece that I learned through this dealing with the emotions and starting to work with parts is how to have more self-compassion for myself, to have more grace. Because I'm not and this is one of the words that is used in the BLE community is a crystal baser. I am not one. I still break my lines. When I do, I try to come from it, well, what happened? And look at it, well, what can I learn from this? And that's one of the big tools I use a lot is, okay, so you did it. What you going to do? You're going to beat yourself up for it? Used to a lot. Now I don't. I try to take a step back and say, okay, what could we have done differently? And well, what could I have done differently? Because there's nobody else there. This is me putting the food in my mouth. And
right. And I don't know, in your family, are you the only one doing bright line eating? Are you?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, I am.
I'm the same way in that way. And you know, my friend Lori, who introduced me to the program, that's one thing she said to me too, was, Noreen, if you decide to do this, just remember this. If you should fall in the ditch or just fall off plan for a second, one, don't beat yourself up. And two, don't look back. You're not going that way. And I've
Right.
added,
That's very good.
stop, drop, and do the next right thing. Don't wait for tomorrow. That's the old diet mentality. I'll wait till next week. I'll wait till, you know, the next Monday or the next month. But, you know, it's like the next thing, the next moment, really. So that has helped me a lot. And you do have to give yourself grace and not beat yourself up. I truly believe that. So what tools did you really rely on to get going? Because if you were not 100% mentally, you at least were with your tools and your program, because you obviously got to maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
were the tools that you found most beneficial?
Well, and there in the beginning, I still do it now, is logging my food, writing it down and committing it. Now, from the beginning, I was in a mastermind group, and that helped a lot because we met every other week face to face until the pandemic hit. And then the other tool that I really is just working my week. Instead of working my week around my food, I work my week, or the food works around my week. And so I heard on the accountability call last week, on Wednesday, actually, another Bright Lifer expressed that. And I'm like, that's what I do. That's what I already do. And that's a really strong tool for me, is I sit down every Sunday and I look at what's coming up for the week, and I make sure my food fits it. So instead of, trying to figure out, well, when am I going to eat lunch? Well, I can eat lunch here and I can eat lunch here, and just really paying attention to I call them my pillars, okay, of sleep. Actually, sleep is more important to me than food. And that may sound a little strange, but if I don't get enough sleep, it all falls. It all domino effects. So I really try to get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Now,
every night. I go to bed at 9:30.
See, I have a problem with sleep. I do not get to bed early enough, and I try and try. It's just such an ingrained habit to just burn the midnight oil. So have you ever had that problem that you had to retrain yourself? So you just forced yourself to go earlier, or
well, I kind of did it backwards. I figured out what I had to do in the morning before my day started, and then I backed it up. So that's how I came up with the 9:30 bedtime. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning and go to bed by 9:30.
Okay. And if you're not sleeping through the day, then you're tired by 9:30. You're ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're ready to turn in.
Like right now, it's 8 o'clock. I feel it.
Well, and
because I put a lot in my day.
When we talked, I know that one thing that you get up early for is exercise. So when
I'm an avid exerciser.
When did you start adding exercise, or did you always do exercise?
I was a fat fitter. So before I found BLE, I was an avid exercise. I worked out 3 days a week with a trainer, and I exercise the other 4 on my own. And so when she said no exercise for that 3 months, that was really hard for me. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to gain weight. But it was totally opposite. I lost all this weight without exercising. But one of the things that I really appreciated seeing is by that 3rd, 4th month after being on BLE, my desire to exercise went out the roof. My energy went out the roof. And so since about month 4, I've been exercising pretty steadily. I just completed a 2-month stint with a new trainer. Her name's Betty Rocker. She's on online training. And then I started with a new trainer this month. So it's really about looking at what I can do different every month. It really keeps it really exciting and fresh. And so, yeah, I exercise 6 days a week.
So this Betty
For
Rocker
about
is just
an hour and a half a day.
online. The one is just an online person.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is really
Yeah.
interesting that you were able to.
So yeah, I get up. Go ahead.
You were able to add this exercise, and what I'm hearing you say, and I listened to Susan's book on an audio, so I will just listen to it. I happened to listen to the exercise piece this week, and one thing that she said was to have them 2 components, diet and exercise. We've heard all these years they're together, but really they should be separate pieces that we're doing for different reasons. And that's got to be so
different
freeing.
reasons.
I remember when I was on a full-blown diet, self-diet and training. Like I was going to the gym every day, working out so hard. And for myself, this was, in the 200s, I was in big numbers. And the trainer said, Noreen, you work harder than anybody here, but it's never going to work until you get your diet right. You can't out exercise a bad diet. And that is so true. I mean, I was not consistent at all with the diet, and I was working out so hard. So it, ended up ruining my willpower was just totally depleted. I have a question here that I think is perfect timing.
That's why I have to.
Do you get hungry because you work out so much?
No, actually, I don't. That's why my food plan is structured like it is. I don't know if anybody picked up on the fridge page in the PowerPoint, but I eat a lot of food. But I also eat at an odd time frames because my time, like in the afternoon, is my worst time. So that's why I eat at 10 in the morning and then 3 in the afternoon to counteract that afternoon hit time. And so my meals are really large. And so that 3 o'clock and 6:30 time is really close together. And it works for me. And that's why I really believe is that bright line eating, you have to follow the structure in the beginning until you get to know yourself better, and you build that integrity and you build that credibility with yourself, and then you can start making it more self-led.
Right. And
so no, I don't get hungry.
Looking at that chart that you created,
I get talking to myself. But you
we had just so here we go. I have just another question here.
Yeah.
Where is parts work taught? That is part, I believe, of the GRIT program. So that is that is actually going on now. So I think that you have to wait to get in to it.
Right, you have to wait. I think food freedom is coming up too at some point.
So now that you are at maintenance,
food freedom, you learn about parts of that.
Okay, I think we have like a little internet delay, but so I have a question for you about your mastermind group. You're meeting every Saturday, right? You said the mastermind group?
I meet twice a week now.
Oh, twice a week.
I have 2 mastermind groups, one on Monday and one on Friday.
All right.
And because I found that for me, I needed more support over the weekend. So I made an accountability going in and accountability coming out.
Wow. So now when, you have an interesting situation that you do some fasting with your bright line eating. And I want to bring that up because you talked about that being self-led. I also looked up that on the frequently asked questions, and there's nothing wrong with it with bright line eating.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically moving your window of when you're eating. What do you find the benefits of the fasting, and what is your specific program to do with fasting?
Well, in my particular case, because I work out so much, what I try to do is create my body to be able to recover. And for me, recovering is letting my gut rest. And so that's my main reason for doing the fasting, is not to lose weight, is to give my body time to rest. And so every other week I do a 24-hour, and every other week I do an 18, twice a week. So it's a really structured commitment that I have. But during the fasting time, I feel so clear-headed. I feel, and I make those days when I'm fasting non-exercise days. So because that does tax me a little bit if I exercise on those particular days. But for me, it's more of I'm giving my body rest and allowing it not to work so hard.
And I've heard that if you use it right, it can help with, what is it called? Autophagy, I believe.
Yeah.
And have you noticed any benefit in that way as far as your skin? Isn't it like your skin, your cells, just replenishing?
I just feel like my body just hums a little better when it's not that I'm denying myself the food, it's I'm giving it rest. I'm giving my body a chance to catch up to some of the some of the processes it has to go through. I did a 24-hour fast yesterday, and when I sat down to eat my meal yesterday evening, it tasted so good. And it also gives me an appreciation for my food too.
Right.
I don't do it for any other reason other than to give my digestive system a rest. Yeah.
Wow, that is just really amazing. I haven't gotten that kind of guts, but I have attempted the intermittent, which is more like maybe 17, 18 hours, where you really have a early dinner and then a late breakfast. And that's kind of normal. That can actually happen fairly easily.
Yeah.
Unless you
I do a normal 12 most days.
So anyway, what have you found to be your non-scale victories? The things that you can't buy. You can't.
Oh, you can't buy. Well, just the energy. The energy is I have so much that I got to do in a day's time. I take care of my mother, who's 86, full time. So I'm interacting with her anywhere between 5 and 6 times a day. I just recently hired a healthcare agency to help me. So that's a big non-scale for myself, for my personal self-care. But let's see, some other non-scale. Well, of course, the weight staying off. That's huge. I weigh myself daily. I'm more of a geek, not necessarily wanting to see the weight loss. I want to see what my food did to me.
Well, what? I gotta bring this up because it was a different call a few weeks ago, and I knew I had to ask you, because I'm like, okay, so how do you know this stuff? And turns out you're a nurse researcher, teacher too, and so it made perfect sense that you would know the answer to this.
With the carbs you're talking about,
carbs. The carbs. And can you explain that?
Because with the carbs being that it holds on 0.3 ounces of water. Yeah.
Right. For every carb. It's so maddening when you think you've done so well, and then all of a sudden you see a blip on the scale and you're like, I've been bright. I have totally been bright. But maybe I squashed last night and pork and, just different things that were heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And that could totally
Yeah,
throw.
it's just it's fun for me to play with my food. I like trying different combinations, and I've gotten it down to the point where I can almost predict what my weight's going to do the next day.
Wow.
Now, when I do break my lines, I don't break them softly. I break them hard.
Ooh.
And I have just recently discovered through parts work is that the caretaker in me is very strong, in that if I forget to take care of myself, that it can turn into sadness, and then it turns into anger, and then I implode. So that's been the biggest breakthrough in the last month, to just finally understand why I do it.
So, I mean, and I know that when you said that you hired a health care agency, there's that piece too.
That was huge. That was
You've been
huge. That helped a lot with anger
but you've
toward
been a
the
caretaker
situation.
for your mom for a long time. And
15 years.
wow.
Yeah.
And so to try to take care of yourself, you're the caretaker.
Yeah.
That's really quite amazing. That is not a small task.
No, it's not.
And so, and the thing is again, what we talk about, that it's not just about the food, because you can have food for these stressful events and this transition that's going on with your mom, but then
Yes.
you can have the celebratory events where
Yes.
you want to eat on that too. And then you can have the compensation stuff of like, well, I worked out hard. and,
Yeah.
and
There's a lot of conversations going around that. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So yeah.
I had a crisis with my mom last week, and I knew that I was doing better when I didn't go to the food.
Wow.
It was that's a good non-scale victory there. Is that
Absolutely.
even in the midst of the crisis, when I wanted to disappear, I didn't turn to food. So that was really big.
Yeah, that is, that's stuff that no amount of anything can buy, is when you can have that peace without reaching for the NMF, not my food, and go on to like, okay, what's the next thing? So do you have a mantra though, or are you just like
I
tough it
don't
out?
really have mantras. I use an emergency action of distraction a lot.
Okay, well, let's talk
I
about that emergency action of distraction.
Yeah, so you can form a lot of different things to help you with your emergency action plan. But for me, I use distraction a lot to deter myself away. So say that like today, one of the big issues I've been having is watching TV and wanting to snack. That's been a huge trial for me for months. And before that, it was NMF Friday nights. That was such a struggle, and I had a buddy in BLE that helped me through that. And now I'm just trying to deal with this TV snacky type of thing. And one of the things I started using is not doing it in the evening, not watching TV at night, because I don't have any willpower at night. And so I often would give in. And then when I learned that whole why did I eat off plan, I realized that I was angry that nobody was taking care of me. Nobody was spending time with me. I wasn't getting that verbal, that appreciation that I felt like I needed. And so then I would turn to food. So that was pretty eye-opening.
Now, I'm just curious when you say that, because like the affirmation, 'cause I like a lot about like love languages and stuff. And I'm a words of affirmation person beyond other
Me
things,
too.
but so I totally get that. Like you need the words. Does it
I
help?
just need to be told, yeah.
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 So do you feel like you're getting a little bit from your mastermind group and maybe the Bright Line community too? It's not the same thing as family or friends or colleagues or whatever, if you're hoping from them to speak words of affirmation, but I don't know how else to do it other than with people you
Well,
don't know and, have good, vibes with each other. So how do
I
you do
journal a lot, and
it?
I affirm myself through my journaling. I have 4 different journals, so, and I journal 3 times a day on average,
Wow.
and I really use that as my own sounding board. Now, there have been times where I have gone to a certain person and I would say, I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. I know I'm doing a good job, but it would be nice if you would say I'm doing a good job. Or I'll go out and I'll seek, because my touching is not a love language of mine. I have struggled with that my entire life, and so not getting enough physical touch. It doesn't have to be, intimate or anything, but just hugs or a handheld or a pat on the back. So I really strive to do that with my own kids. Is going out of my way to do that, but I don't
You,
often ask for it.
so you
Yeah.
don't need that or you do need that?
In the I do and I don't. I don't
Okay.
seek it until I actually need it, and then it's probably too late by then.
Okay. But
Yeah.
you know what? I'm hearing that you're not afraid to go and say, I
No, I'm
need,
not.
I
Not
need a
anymore.
word. I remember when I was doing that whole early morning gym every day, because my husband's not a words of affirmation person, but I would come in and it's like, all I need you to say is great job when I come in. It's just, I mean,
I
just
know
when I
it's
come
good.
in, it's like, great job. Like you're
Uh-huh.
killing it, you know, just,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. So when you find, some way to get that, you really do need it. So that's very smart to do the
Hmm.
journaling. And another
Yeah.
thing that somebody, I'm not sure who it was, mentioned that when you do get the words of affirmation, and I haven't done this myself, but they're like,
Thank you.
collect it, but actually
Yeah.
collect those
Collected.
that you have
Yeah.
and put them somewhere that you can read and really hear them yourself. And it's interesting how important that really is. Um, well,
And I practice.
I'll just tell you this. I didn't at all plan on telling you this, but this is how much words of affirmation mean to me. I grew up in a huge family, and it wasn't common to hear the words, I love you. I knew I was
Mm-mm.
loved. I felt
Mm-hmm.
loved, but I didn't hear those words. And I did hear them from my mom before she passed away, but here my dad was 86 years old, and I had never heard those words come from him. And one day, we lived 3 hours away, and I went up north to see him. I came unannounced, and of course, he was happy to see me. But by the end of the night, I said, Dad, I'm here for one reason. I need to hear I love you. He says, You know I love you. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you love me, but I needed to hear it. I
Yeah.
needed to hear it from
Yeah.
you. And the thing is, whoever you love, tell them you love them. And I
Mm-hmm.
am so glad that whatever possessed me to get in my car and go, that I did, because he died a few months later. And
Wow.
I was at least able to hear that. So, like I said, I didn't plan on talking about that, but that's how crucial those words of affirmation are, whether they're a compliment, whether they're a high five, or simply to say I love you to somebody.
So my
And
first weekend, Noreen, was off. I had my first weekend off this last weekend in a
mm,
year. And I
with your
just went
mom.
to, yes, with my mom. And when I got home Monday and I was bathing her, she stopped me and she said, I like that you're back.
Oh,
I like how you do me. So it was just like, okay, that's close enough. I can take that. I can
yeah,
receive
just cherish that, Robin.
that.
Just
Yeah.
cherish it. Well, I'm looking and this time is clicking away. I want to make sure that I'm a lot of great positive reinforcement here. Yes. Yeah. So you have a bunch of kids too. Is that right?
I, yeah,
And
I have 9 kids, blended family.
okay.
I have 3 left at home. So
Okay. And then
Yeah.
another question is, does your mom eat BLE?
Yes, she does. Now she eats a
Good.
little differently than me. She eats a little bit more bread products than I do. Yeah.
There
But for the
is
most
a,
part, actually, she's lost 30 pounds over the last year or so with me
wow.
controlling her diet so strictly. Well,
And
I
she
mean,
didn't,
nobody else was feeding her but me.
wow. So, and she probably
Yeah.
loved it too.
I wouldn't say she loved it, Noreen. I mean, she's
There's,
still sassy at 86.
you know what, you're just very honest about it. It's not always
Mm-hmm.
easy to do this. It really isn't. Um, you mentioned something though, and again, in the audio that
But
I had on with,
yeah, my meals are really simple. I feed my family the way I eat. Now, if they don't want to eat the vegetables, that's fine. I don't eat their NMF, then they don't have, I just offer what I have. So every meal, I make a huge pot of vegetables, some sort of meat, and some sort of NMF for them. And then I eat my food. And oftentimes my husband will look at my plate and go, "Boy, your plate looks so much better than mine. I should eat
yeah.
like you." And then he just goes back to eat what he wants.
Well, the thing that my husband started saying was, boy, that's a lot of food. And I have to chuckle because he's not realizing that before I had maybe a nice size plate, but I'd have
Mhm.
second or third helpings. And so if it would have been all piled up, and yeah, when you put all what you are allowed on a plate, it is a lot of food. But
Yeah,
let's talk about that too for maintenance. How many ads do you have?
I have 5.
Okay. And what are your choices?
Well, I just recently changed from not eating grains to
Oh,
just eating fats. Yeah. So I'm under a new coach
okay.
where I'm eating more fats than I am carbs. And so it's still fairly new. I'm about 3 weeks in. Not sure if I like it or not yet, but because on the paleo diet, that's part of an alternate diet in BLE, they replace the grains with the fat. And so that's all I did is swapped out fats and grains. Yeah.
And I know
Or
that
grains
some
with fat.
who are coming from a background of bariatric, that
Mm-hmm.
I know I talked with Beth Moore, I believe, and she had that situation and has added more fat in her diet
Mm-hmm.
as part of,
And I've lost, since I've started eating more fat, I've lost an inch on my waist.
oh wow,
Though my weight stayed the same, I've shrunk.
wow,
So something's working. So it probably is a combination of a lot of different factors, but that's just one. So,
interesting.
and I don't really miss the carbs that I'm not eating, or the grains, if you want to call them grains, um, because I'm so satiated with the fat.
So
I don't miss it.
what would be like a normal dinner for you now then, for example?
Okay.
Because
Uh,
you're adding more protein at dinner, right?
well, my dinner pretty much looks like the BLE plan because all I added to dinner was a half a fruit. So I still eat 4 ounces of protein, and then my vegetables are 10 ounces to 14, depending on how much I had at lunch. So, and then a half a fruit and a
Okay.
fat.
So you're really fun to go out with for 14
Boy,
ounces, 14 ounces of vegetables at dinner.
it's a
But
lot of vegetables. 14 ounces is a lot of vegetables, but that is the original weight
right,
loss plan. Is it was 14 ounces at dinner. So
exactly.
yeah, early on I did 10 and 10, 10 at lunch and 10 at dinner.
There is in the chat here, when we were talking about parts, it says that Everett Considine,
Yes,
that
yeah,
you can get a hold of him for parts. And I
yeah,
believe that he does do work with Bright Line Eating for the
yeah.
group.
He does.
So,
I just recently heard a statement that he made that really resonated with me, and I wonder if anybody else heard it if you're taking the grit course. But what he said was, let me see, I wrote it down so I would remember. Bright line eating long term is not the goal. Um, and I just thought that was because long term, if you don't have something else, It's not the goal in itself. Bright line eating gets you there, but it's not the finish line. You want to keep growing. You want to go beyond that because the changes will start to within. Once you have it down, you start to change from within. And I like this Robin.
Yeah.
Compared to where I was 2 years ago, I like this Robin. So
That's
I'm in
awesome.
love with her.
You know what I think is so cool is that reminds me of something that I've thought, and I've got a long ways to go yet, so I haven't arrived. But I've thought often that this craziness of the weight and what goes on into your head, as far as the food chatter and all this kind of stuff, all the numbers running in my head, I've thought how much that takes you away from your purpose in life. That, it's all about me, really. That's all me. How, is there going to be something in the workroom for me? Is there going to be something left in the cupboard for me? And just like all the time, me, really. But when that's gone and the freedom of thinking clearly, I think that's when we can give, it's outward then, which then gives you more inward. It's just like
right. You have the room to start thinking.
Exactly.
And
that's what it sounds
but I just
like.
really, what I like most about BLE, Noreen, is that it's so personalized. We can make it our own. My breakfast doesn't look like anybody else's breakfast. My lunch doesn't have to look like anybody else's. Just as long as it has the structure, you got it.
Right.
I don't have to eat like anybody else. I just need the structure, and that works. That's what I love about BLE, is that at any time, all I got to do is go back to the basics.
Right. And you can go anywhere and have a hodgepodge of stuff that makes it a bright meal. And it's perfectly,
And I take my own vegetables.
Yeah.
I take a big bowl of vegetables. I made a warm kale salad for a get together last Sunday. Nobody else ate it, but I did.
The whole bowl.
They're like, kale? Yuck.
The whole bowl.
What's that green stuff?
Like, who brings cauliflower to the holiday party? So I saw a couple hands raised. That's perfect. Oh gosh. Oh, the time is already here, and
this has been fun. Just have fun with your food, guys. Just have fun with it. Learn to love it for what it is. Learn for the nutrients it gives you. Learn for the energy, and just love your bodies. I mean, it's the only one we got.
And exercise for the fun of it.
Yeah, for the fun of it, not for the weight loss. When I'm running on the treadmill, I feel so powerful. When I'm walking outside, I hear the birds. When I'm riding my bike, just feeling that equilibrium, being able to stay up on my bike, that's what I'm enjoying. I'm not enjoying, I'm going to lose a pound this week because I exercised. No, I'm exercising because I want to. It makes me feel good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is so great. Well, I know that we're getting close, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to have you talk whoever is here tonight, to whoever is here who might be just either ready to jump in, resume, or maybe they've just paused and they need a boost. What would you say to them, Robin, about
I'd say go back to basics, focus on the program, get automatic, get yourself where you can trust yourself again, and try to have that blinders on until you can. And reach out, support. You need the support. That was the hardest thing for me, was reaching out.
Yeah. And when you say reach out, get in the groups?
Get in the groups, contact people, see what's going on in the community on official. Like, I created a mastermind group from this group, Noreen. My Monday morning mastermind came from the Starting Out Bright group.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I put in the chat that I wanted another mastermind, and a couple ladies contacted me.
Oh, that's so great. That's really, and I think you really just have to speak it out there. Well, type it, but you just have to really just be a little bit bold for, what is it, 20 seconds, put it out there and,
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. This is
Yep.
such an amazing community that, I just I can't even doubt that, there's not going to be a good thing coming out of it. So,
But don't forget about making sure you take care of yourself.
yeah.
I can't empathize that enough.
You have a spiritual practice that you talked about very, very briefly, and I put it on the slide. There's like
Mm-hmm.
four things. I don't know if it's something that you say before you sleep, or it's like
I say it when I'm needing to say it. So it's Ho'oponopono. Is that what
okay.
you're referring to?
Yeah, and I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with it at all, but
It's
it's
a Hawaiian practice, and I use it when I'm feeling bad. There's a reason why I'm feeling bad, so I really try to. That's where that self-compassion comes in, and I'll say to myself, "I'm sorry. I didn't know that that was going to trigger me, or I didn't know that I would be triggered by that." And you say, "I'm sorry," because really you don't know everything, and
no.
and sometimes that's hard. And then you say thank you, and then you say I love you, and so you're really doing it toward yourself, not to anybody else. You're doing it toward yourself. You're just going centered in. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what we really have to have, is self-compassion. Like, it's no joke, get the bunny slippers on, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
early days. If you're starting out, like for me, I put the charts on my phone. I really studied them so much those first weeks until it became automatic. For me, it took 5 weeks before it became automatic. But I was
Mm-hmm.
like studying them because I like variety, and like, how do you split proteins? How do you split quantities? And so that was really important for me, and it helped me become automatic with that. But yeah, it's no joke. You got to really have
No.
self-compassion.
And
So,
so I would have to say at this point that I'm committed, I'm surrendered, and that I have an identity as a
yeah,
bright lifer. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
here. I'm not going anywhere.
And
Yep.
you're just awesome, Robin. Thank you so much for being here
Oh, you're
tonight.
welcome.
Do you have
I've
anyone
enjoyed
last?
it.
I enjoyed having you, and enjoyed talking with you too the other day. Do you have any other last word before we go?
Just just have faith in yourself. You have it within you. You just need to learn how to find it. Yeah, it's there.
And reach
It's
out
there.
if you don't
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like you
yeah.
reach out if you don't feel like you have the strength. So here's our time up, and I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And Robin, again, thank you so much for sharing your story and
You're
some great
welcome.
ideas, some different ideas, and a lot to think about, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, tell everybody who you love that you love them. Use that
Yes, yes.
words of
Make sure you
affirmation.
verbalize it. Yep.
So I'm going to close as we do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Robin,
Yes.
how would you like to play 3 Question Thursday?
I'll play 3 Question Thursday.
Okay. 3 Question Thursday. Let's see. All right. I know you exercise. You exercise quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Yes.
Question number 1. If you were going to coach somebody who's just starting out and they want to do it for fun, but you want to give them a good, this is how you begin, what would you suggest that they start out with?
What did they like doing when they were 10 years old?
Hmm, that's
What did they
cute.
find fun when they were 10? Go
I
back
love
there, and
that.
it'll surprise you. For
Well,
me, it was bike riding. It was like, oh, I did like bike riding back then. I liked playing hide and go seek in the cornfields. So running, yeah, I can run. So just remembering what I liked to do when I was 10.
wow, that is such a great
Yeah, start
idea.
there. Yeah,
I love
that
that.
works.
Okay, question number 2.
Okay.
So maybe you haven't had much of a chance to do with this with COVID, but if you were to go out for dinner and you're going to pick the restaurant, where are you going? Do you have any
Olive Garden.
ideas? Where?
Olive Garden.
Ooh, that doesn't sound like it's going to be compatible.
Yes, it is though, because I ordered a double portion of grilled vegetables. So we went there Friday night. So I had all this food on the table, and so I got a piece of baked chicken, the grilled chicken, and
Okay.
then the NMF that usually comes with it. I slid it off to a plate, and then the salad I asked without dressing, and so I had that, and then I had my grilled chicken with mushrooms. So I had my fat in the mushrooms because you know that they
Yeah.
grill the stuff, and yeah, it was
Oh,
good. It was
that
very good.
sounds
So Olive
fantastic.
Garden, yeah,
Wow. And that's
just
a
pass
lot,
up
a
that
lot.
NMF basket every time.
All right. Okay. Third question. I know that you have a very set schedule on your
Mm-hmm.
fridge.
Yes.
Do you use the same breakfasts every day?
No, no. I alternate between two different breakfasts, but each of the breakfasts have different components. So like one day I'll have hemp seeds and nuts. Another one I'll have flaxseed and nuts, and then another one will be chia seeds, and then Paleo Crunch. I don't know if you know that brand, but so I mix the breakfasts up that way, and then my egg breakfast, I will put kimchi. I don't know if you know what kimchi is,
Isn't that
but
a
it's
drink?
no, kimchi is a sauerkraut based,
Oh,
very
yeah.
spicy.
Yes.
It's a Korean
Okay.
delicacy. So I put that in my spinach and my mushrooms with my breakfast.
I would not think to do that.
It makes it really good. It tastes really
Wow.
good.
And
Yeah.
we have had it here, so I may
Yeah.
look you up about that.
Yeah, mix it up with your spinach and mushrooms that you saute in that nice little butter I get for breakfast. Oh, it's good.
Oh, so it's cooked.
Yeah, it's cooked.
Oh.
Well, it comes in a jar, and then I scoop out because kimchi and salsa are in the same level
Mm,
because if you know that salsa you can use as a
condiment.
condiment, and you get 2 ounces, and so kimchi is the same type of stuff, and so I used 2 ounces of that. I had kimchi with my mixed raw vegetables for lunch today. It was really good.
Can you imagine? In 10 years, there will be bright line eating restaurants. I'm sure of
There
it.
may be, yeah.
This is going to explode. It
But
already
here's the
is.
fun part with food, Noreen, is that now that I got it really stable, I'm trying different things. Like I just tried passion fruit
Hmm.
and kiwis. What's another one? New thing I just tried millet. I would have never
Oh,
thought of trying millet. Didn't like
yeah,
it, but I tried it. And
yeah.
then yeah, it's just like now you get to open yourself up to other foods that you don't normally would have thought that you would want to do. And
It's so
that's where
amazing.
the fun starts to come in. Oh,
Yes.
let's try this.
That's
So
awesome. Well, Robin,
you
thank you. These were three fun questions. Thanks for being here tonight. And thank you for playing Three Question Thursday.
You're welcome. Welcome. I love this. This was great. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
you're great. Thanks for coming on. Good night,
Sure thing.
everybody. Stay bright.
Bye.